What to do when you're a young Karakin noble and left with the decision of how to outfit your personal guard. It's a tough decision, really. I mean, you have to have this specific image of grandeur to represent your house properly. And luckily in your state, you are also one of the wealthier houses and have the funds to do so. The question still comes down to, though, what are you trying to protect yourself against? Is it the harsh, crude weapons that have been taken from the mines and manufactured by those ungrateful citizens? How about those threats of other activists currently being supplied by that strange Horus cell? Industrial projectiles and improvised explosives? Crazy elite hackers and private terrorist cells? What to do, and all of this on top, trying to keep the image of your family. Well, there's only one choice, obviously. The Black Witch. Hi, hello, and welcome back to the Mech tabletop RPG, Lancer. This is the second license video covering the most popular SSC frame in Karakin space, Black Witch. Your magnetic current... like the title, Mech Thighs Save Lives. I mean, really, it's a heavily defensive mech and chassis currently built around, at least in lore, the protection of noble houses, and it's really good at said job. In any case, adding it to the entire board, which this is gonna build. So our second license, which you can access when you gain a license level within Lancer, the equivalent of leveling up, getting access to a different level of each license, each one having 3. All of them currently built around a core frame or chassis, which is what we're initially starting with. So the Black Witch itself, outside of being designed like that, ips-n's Blackbeard from last episode, which was a pirate anti-pirate mech, the namesake and the activities of such. The Black Witch is heavily defensive and almost, well, witch-like or magic-esque in the sense that most of the things you don't see, as it's a bunch of magnets and hacking. Or anti-hacking in this case. But onto the stats compared to the Everest, you have the list here, you can take a picture, just like the Blackbeard one. In general, it's a lot more defensive focused and a lot of heavy system-esque areas compared to the Blackbeard especially. The Everest being the starting frame you get at LL0, it's kind of just a nice baseline to compare everything else to. Now onto the chassis traits. First trait being Repulsor Field is really good. It's just straight up resistance to all kinetic damage. The reason it's so good is that within Lancer, all weapons do at least one of 3 different damage types. So you have kinetic, explosive, and energy. Kinetic being, guns, swords, things just bludgeoning, piercing, slashing like it would be in D&D. This one is just any physical contact. That isn't just a shockwave or shrapnel like explosive. So to instantly have that damage, just baseline as a part of the frame, not any ability or additional thing you need to add on, is really good. Next one, playing off of that idea of the repulsor field or those magnets being able to push or control everything. And that's Mag Parry, which is really cool. So Mag Parry can trigger whenever you take a reaction against a kinetic attack that hits you or an immediate adjacent ally. Spend that reaction, then roll a d6. On a 5+, the attack misses. It just misses. Doesn't matter what they rolled to hit, whatever systems they have, whether it was lock-on or not. That magnetic repulsor just knocked it away. By the way, this includes kinetic melee weapons. Though while we talk about this, it doesn't stack with invisibility, which invisibility is going to be talked about in another video. Probably be up here in a card somewhere at some point. But in short, a nice defensive ability to be that defensive role when looking over a Karakin noble to deflect it out of the way. Or for SSC's private forces. Now for good old Black Witch's core power, which, oh no, that stat block. Or description. It's a long description. With Mag Field, you set up a blast through area, which is really large, at least with one space adjacent to you initially, then it lasts until the end of your next turn. During that turn, the area is difficult terrain, and anyone that has slight magnetic parts, or, is made of metal like a mech, as they start their turn in it or enter it for the first time on their turn, they have to make a hull save. If they fail, they're pulled immediately to the center or as close as possible, if other things are already occupying it. On top of, being immobilized, which sucks, any projectiles that go to hit the barrier get stuck around its edges, either coming from the inside or outside. Keep track of those projectiles that get stuck, kinetic or explosive, energy just goes right through it. But at the end of the total effect, with everything currently in the center, all those, explosives, kinetics currently just stuck at that stasis field at the end of the barrier, they immediately get pulled in. The GM then rolls to hit for every projectile up to 6 that got stuck in there, dealing up to 6d6 damage to every target. If it didn't already suck, the fact that you were stuck, immobilized in difficult terrain, could be hit by energy weapons that entire time, and none of your kinetic or explosive projectiles went out, they've all turned in on you. Outside of the witchcraft angle, which, Karakin space kind of plays into the noble, feudal houses of the future sort of angle, SSC initially developed a lot of the Black Witch systems to try and outcompete Harrison Armory's bits of gravity manipulation and magnetic systems, which you can see in those 2 systems over there. Now that the main chassis is done and all its nice stats and stuff, we get to the fun components you can add to anything else. First up on the licensed parts, the magnetic cannon, a main weapon with a line 8 attack, meaning it hits everyone in that area, which does 1d3 plus 1 energy damage. However, it's not just the fact it's a magnet, which is even described to disable electrical components, hence the energy damage. It has an additional effect that on a hit, meaning it just needs to hit, no critical or anything, like the shredded, every target needs to make a hull save or be immediately pulled 1d3 plus 1 towards you, or as close as possible, so it doesn't go past you. Which for the Black Witch, you might be wondering why defensive bring anything close? It's the idea that this can be put on other chassis as well. Next one, the Pharaoh Slash, 2 system points. You know what Pharaoh Fluid is? That strange magnetic type fluid or metallic fluid. In short, pick a target, range 8, quick action, you throw this onto them, making them a way more viable target to be able to be thrown around. Though it's not just some kind of like grapple check or some kind of flavor like the magnetic cannon to bring them closer to you, even though the description mentions that. You can throw them almost anywhere 5 spaces. If it's an ally, you can move them freely around. The effect wearing off after 1 round. If they're hostile, they make a hull save beforehand, and then you can move them the additional 5. Additional thing is, if you actually take this and then just slam them into a wall or an additional mech, they fall prone. One thing to note, it says pull in any direction, meaning that includes down if you're going against some kind of flying enemy. And when it comes to 0G, that means anywhere. So just, grab a mech, toss it out into the void of space. License level 2, we now start getting to the hacking side of Black Witch. Or again, the not hacking, but ice out drone. 2 system points, and for our first drone, here's its stats. So a lot of deployables, but especially drones to that extent, have their own stats that after you deploy them, think of it like a summoned creature. It can be hit, it can be shot, it can be disabled, it can be hacked. But luckily for you, the ice out drone's stopping all of that touching you. To all your allies around the ice out drone, they are immune to tech attacks. Immune. Now, tech attacks aren't just for hacking or additional things that can disable you from an infamous mech, especially, but it also counts for things like smart weaponry, any kind of additional nanite or missile guided system. None of it's hitting. On top of that effect, you're currently immune to all previous ones. Not that you're cured of them or they're removed, but you don't suffer any of the negatives. You still have to make saves to get rid of them regularly, but you don't suffer any of the negative effects while the drone's near you. It's honestly not that bad. Though it is limited too, meaning that in between rests and repairs, you're only gonna have 2 uses of it. Still, if you're running into issues of all those techs and hacking and you can kind of deploy the drone around cover, you can make great use of it, especially in grouping up around allies. Now, the perimeter command plate, 2 system points, has its own health as a deployable again. So while the previous system was limited, this one comes with a flash printing module, essentially meaning this is gonna be rapidly building then deploying. When you're initially building it, you pick repulse or attract. If an ally steps on it, they get to fly anywhere in 3 spaces. If an enemy lands on it, they make a hull save, and then you get to launch them anywhere 3 spaces. If it's attract, any character that goes to step on top of it needs to make a hull save or is immobilized on the spot. Also playing into the Karrakin side of it again, in its description, a lot of these people have ordered customized versions of it for what they call familiars, laying into the spellcaster angle of it in Karrakin space at least. Makes me really wonder, outside of the Lux Iconic line that SSC has displayed here, so there's this, standard model, what the Karrakin ones look like. Now back to the hacking or anti-hacking side of it, the Black Ice module. 3 system points. For every tech attack against you or an adjacent allied character, every enemy has 1 difficulty dice against them. If another tech attack happens, that's 2 difficulty dice. Then another, 3. Then another, it goes back over to 1. And it keeps cycling through this over and over again, every repeated attack. Up until, the end of the scene or until the repair. But if you are being really annoyed or bogged down by different tech attacks, again, hacking characters, Black Ice module is the go-to. Go and give them those consistent minuses. And lastly, back to the magnetic side of it, the magnetic shield. 2 system points, and even before going into it, yes, energy weapons just pass through. Being able to now place this down just as a quick action, it's a line 4 tall, invisible wall of just magnetic force. Mechs and characters partially made of metal, not even a hull save, just can't go through it at all. Provides soft cover overall, and anyone benefiting from said soft cover has resistance to kinetic and explosive damage. Really playing into the initial just barrier defense or blocking all general attacks. With all its components, high license level, and its initial chassis in that scene of the Karrakin Noble. With the finest SSE tech, drones head out, Black Ice modules activate, everything's currently being saved, no reactors overheating on their watch. Bullets, shrapnel, explosives, all of it bouncing directly off, stuck in mid-air at the edges of the parade. Everything turned against the initial attackers. Nothing is touching that noble in the center of that personal guard. Nothing. 4 barriers of that medic shielding, all of them having resistance to kinetics so they can stand in front of and act as soft cover for everyone around them. The parries coming from all corners, the protection against the hacking whenever in close proximity on top of the drones. Now you take those defensive stats, put them in the hands of your Lancer on your team, on your squad, and nothing, just like that prince, will touch your allies. It's the best defense in all of Karrakin space. SSE guaranteed. And in short, kind of like the meme reference from earlier, mech thighs save lives. That's got to go into the marketing, right? Alright, end of the video. Tried to avoid that kind of playing into that joke a little too much, namely going over some of the cool factors of the license, but yeah, I mean, Black Witch just looks interesting, doesn't it? Whether it's used for the personal guards of SSC retinue or those nobles, or in just your hands with your allies, it's a good defensive chassis and license. So, you know, all those other parts being mixed to other things. In any case, you can think of mech thighs all you want. Thank you for watching. A thank you to my patrons, and have a nice day.